some teams have a robot review. Today, we're going to have a drive team review, interviewing all our drivers and human players. First up, we have, I believe his name is Alec Bari.
Yeah!
Hello, Alec.
It's actually Alec Berry.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to be asking you some questions.
Okay.
What was your biggest challenge as a human player?
I think my biggest challenge was learning the rules. It's a very, very large packet of rules, and reading is long. Yeah.
Well, aside from your reading, what other preparations went into being an effective human player, if you were?
Well, I am.
Okay.
But I spent many hours bowling at the local alley, and also have to be able to count. So I've been practicing that with my first grade math teacher.
And have you been successful?
No, it's very challenging.
I can sympathize. Yep. And how do you deal with the high-stress situation of a match?
So, well, some matches I feel aren't very stressful. Like, when I'm in the spy box, I feel like I'm unstressed. But when I'm back in the driver's station, it's a lot more stressful because you have to make sure that you're keeping tabs on the balls that are in behind the place, because there's only 6 that can be there, and they can score like 3 at a time.
Speaking of the spy box, we've seen you waving a lot. Do you have a girlfriend in the stands?
No, I was actually waving to my drive team,
Okay.
so that they'd, move the robot that way and then shoot.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't listen. They're mean.
Speaking of listening, what's the best way to communicate both with your drive team and with your alliance partners?
I think talking is the best way. A lot of people in this day and age, they use like email or text, but when you can just talk face to face, like why wouldn't you do that?
I mean, it's scary. It's scary. No?
You're never gonna see your alliance partners.
And how supportive is Steve as a coach?
Steve is very supportive. I like his personality. He's also one of my mentors on the team. It's fun working with him.
And how do you keep a positive attitude after losing so many matches?
That's kind of an insult to us. I am qualification matches. Like after we were ranked, not very high. It was kind of depressing. But after we got put into playoffs, and we lost the winning team, so that's a little consolation. And then we won engineering inspiration, so I kind of think about that instead of other stuff.
Now, if there's one most important piece of advice you could give as being a human player to, say, a rookie team or someone who's never been a human player before, what would that be?
Make sure you read the rules.
Insightful. And I have one more question for you that I'll ask, and it's perhaps the most important out of all these. And if you could be part of any boy band, which one would it be and why?
That's a tough question.
It is, but you have to answer it.
I think I want to be part of The Wanted because they're British and they have a cool accent. Well said.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alec Berry! Presenting driver Mohawk Jane.
Welcome back. You're supposed to say that to me.
Yeah, well, you never know how things are going to go.
Alright.
So, I have some questions for you. What was your biggest challenge as a driver?
I'd say probably our lack of preparedness. We kind of worked right up to the date, those 6 weeks, most teams like to get into some driver practice during that time. We really didn't have too much. And so I'd say that really impacted me a little bit. Fortunately, our programming team, they're a bunch of gods, so our control system is definitely something that we could get used to very quickly, so that wasn't too big of a deal.
Well, in terms of preparations, I know you mentioned you didn't have very many, but of that you did, what were the specifics of that, or if you had more time to prepare, what kinds of things would you prepare for?
I think it would just be a lot more running through it and ironing out a lot of the kinks that we have in the system, because I know, for example, one match our button board just stops working. We don't really know what to do at that point. If we had more practice, we probably could have gotten that ironed out. But honestly, it's not too bad.
All right. Well, what's the best way that you can communicate with your alliance partners? Because I know in the heat of the moment it might get sort of hard, but
I know Alec was talking about talking, but as a general rule, speaking just fine. It's just a lot of shouting. That's about it.
All right. Well, through your matches, how do you deal with the stress that's put on you to score as many points in a small amount of time?
I actually hide underneath the driver's station and cry. Well, okay, maybe not. But the point is, usually stress isn't too big of a deal for me. I'm usually able to manage it, especially knowing that I have my alliance, my team members around me. They're ready. They're competing. They're ready to go. I can compete too. So I think I just find comfort in that knowledge.
How supportive is Steve as a coach to you guys?
Steve is awesome. He's always there to keep up morale. Every time we finish a match, whether we won or we lost, he's always like, "It was a good match. We did what we could. We did our part," and it always means a lot to me.
And speaking of Steve, what would your favorite hairstyle of his be?
We've got ponytail Steve. That's a pretty good hairstyle. We've also got loose hair Steve. That's pretty good. I'm gonna have to go with the loose haired one though. The ponytail, maybe it's a new look, maybe it'll grow on me, but for now, it's that the long hair, the loose hair. That's what I prefer.
As a driver, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give to a rookie team or a new driver?
I'd say to get a lot of practice. If you don't have practice, you're not going to be a good driver, and a good driver can turn a bad robot into an amazing top-tier performing robot, and a bad driver can turn the best robot in the world into scrap metal.
Which defense would you say is the one that you can get through most consistently?
I'd say whatever defense we usually attempt, we actually get through pretty much 100% of the time. We haven't really had problems with that. Like low bar, this one we've pretty much gone through every time. We've got ramparts going for us. We've got rough terrain, close to the moat. And just the other day, actually, we tried rock wall. I don't know about the consistency of that. The other ones are pretty consistent.
And you mentioned the low bar, and I've actually heard some rumors that in the initial planning of the robot, that you were supposed to be our robot because you could fit under the low bar. Correct? Am I correct in that?
So I'm not sure who wrote this question, but I'm pretty sure it's a short joke. So I'm gonna not answer that one. We'll have to talk after this interview, though.
All right. Well, wouldn't want to keep you too long. Probably trying to keep it short. But what would your all-time favorite song be?
All-time favorite song?
Yes.
Oh man. Little Einstein's theme song. Doesn't get too much better.
Oh, Little Einstein's. Little
Einstein's.
Yes.
Because when you grow up, you want to go to Einstein's.
That's true. That's
the
true.
bagel place?
No.
Not the bagel place.
What else would it be?
I don't know. Einstein's at St. Louis.
Oh,
I
yeah!
don't know. How did you guys miss the reference so well?
We did. No, that was.
That was not part of the. Who made this joke?
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time, Mr. Jane, and I hope that you can make up for your height and longevity of your driving career.
Yes, thanks.
And now we have Tejas Surendran coming here. Yeah.
Ladies
My
and
bad.
gentlemen,
Ages. Yes, it is. So what would you say your biggest challenge is as a driver?
Probably making sure I don't get yelled at by the team,
Okay.
because it's slightly stressful at times.
Well, speaking of that stress, what's the best way that you deal with that stress, and really it's the entire stress of being in that situation of like a match with all this time constraint and you have to score points? How do you deal with it?
Well, I don't take that much stress over the matches itself. It's just like the overall performance. So I try to keep a fresh and positive attitude going into every match. However, I like eating food, so food is my biggest de-stressor, you could say.
That's good. And would that also apply to like keeping a positive attitude after losing matches, or?
Yeah, losing a match isn't like that bad. I wouldn't say, I personally don't consider losing a match that bad because it always tells you what you need to improve on personally, but I say winning a match feels much better.
So what preparations go into becoming a driver?
Well, in terms of the driver test, I don't think there's really much to like the there's two parts that we did this year. One was the written and one was the practical. So the written, you could say, is like studying for any other test you would take in school. So just read the rules of the game manual, and then just learn what's a technical or what's a yellow card or something like that. And the practical, I would just say it's more like your ability to drive the robot. So it's just like any other like driving class you'd probably take. So you'd have to like learn how to handle, say for example, a car. You learn how to drive the car. It's like you learn how to drive the robot, and then some people, it's just like easier for some people to do something than others. So I don't know.
And what's your favorite hairstyle of Steve?
Probably the ponytail.
Okay. And speaking of Steve, how supportive is he as a driver coach?
He's pretty supportive. He gets very anxious at times. I remember that he shook me to death almost last Saturday during Sunday during one of the playoff matches. So he definitely gets more anxious than the drivers.
Interesting. So what's the most important piece of advice you would say you could give to a rookie team or just someone who has never driven in an FRC competition before?
Don't be intimidated by the older teams when they're like when they tell you to follow their lead, or like if they seem a bit bossy, don't feel intimidated by it because they're just trying to do the best that they can, and it's not like trying to be offensive to you in any particular way.
Alright. Well, given that it's illegal to cross the street on your hands in Connecticut, what is your opinion on the social lives of ducks?
Ducks, I feel personally, like ducks are a bit too. I feel ducks are kind of obnoxious personally.
Really?
Their quacking sound kind of irritates me. However, the hand rule in Connecticut is just dumb.
Alright. Well, what does the name of our robot, Tejas, mean to you in a philosophical sense? What does that really represent to you?
In a philosophical sense, honestly, it means nothing to me.
It means nothing to you.
Yeah, because I personally found that when we were making like the name for the robot, it was slightly amusing. So it's more like a.
So there's no deeper meaning behind this?
Not exactly.
I mean, I've talked to team members say that Tejas is a state of mind, and we're honoring that through our robot. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh, well, the state of mind part, clearly. It means inner focus and like transcendentalism. Yeah. So kind of like Ralph Waldo Emerson.
And final question, when do you think our first water game will be?
That's a tough one. Hopefully before we go as seniors. Senior year would be fun for our senior year, 2018. Or I'm guessing 2020.
Very insightful.
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, the Cages. Introducing
driver Max Kasman. Yeah. Hello, Maxwell. I have some questions here for you today. What would you say was your biggest challenge as a driver in competition?
This season?
This season.
Well, in competition, I was in there for one match, and for that one match, my buttons didn't work, so that was a pretty big challenge, but we managed to get through it. It was a rough match. We lost. We scored 15 points, but nevertheless, we were able to come back overall in the next matches and overcome.
What preparations did you take in being a driver?
Well, we tried to select drivers with natural talent. So all of the preparation I get comes from the ground up pretty much. And yeah, so preparation is just making sure I'm doing what I know how to do.
Right. And how do you deal with the high stress situation of a match?
Well, I don't take it stressfully because really it's the robot that is performing. So if the driver's like a good driver can drive a bad robot, but if there's a good robot, you don't need the best driver in the world. So that's kind of how I think of it. So it's the robot that's driving.
How supportive is Steve as a driver coach?
I think Steve is very supportive because he's always there and he always gives you something to do. So if you like freeze or something, if you get too stressed, he doesn't seem to become that way. So that's always a breath of fresh air.
And speaking of Steve, what would you say your favorite hairstyle of his is?
The man bun.
Very, very nice. And what would your all-time favorite song be? Clock is ticking, my friend.
I'm gonna go with the final countdown.
All right.
The final countdown. That's why.
What? How do you keep a positive attitude after losing matches?
Well, I guess the overall experience is always fun because you get to drive the robot in the middle of the field and it's lots of screaming people. So I guess it's just always fun, even if we lose really badly, because that has happened a lot. So it's not really that bad every time we lose really badly. So yeah, can have fun anyways.
If you could be a part of any boy band that has ever existed, which one would it be and why?
I think it's a One Direction, Imagine Dragons toss-up right now because I mean I could go either way between those two. Imagine Dragons is very techy, so I guess I'm kind of into tech. But in One Direction, they have the crazy hairstyles, so yeah, hairy styles.
See what you did. All right. Given that it's illegal to cross the street on your hands in Connecticut, what is your opinion on the social lives of ducks? Very important question, by the way.
They deserve a lot because I can take it that they walk on their hands too. Like their feet look like hands, so if they walk across the street in Connecticut, I think they should be allowed to walk through.
All right. And this will be our final question. What does the name of our robot, Tejas, mean to you in a philosophical sense? Of course, we know that it's in honor of Tejas, but would you say there's more to it than that? That there's perhaps a spiritual aspect to this Tejas?
Yeah, I would say definitely. If you asked me to describe Tejas, like the concept in words, it wouldn't be possible because it's more of like a feeling and a lifestyle and a philosophy all combined into one word. So I think that word really encompasses everything. It's a lot. It's, like I said, a lifestyle, a philosophy. Yeah, philosophy.
Could you comment on what this lifestyle entails, or is it just too complex?
It's very abstract. It's hard to enunciate.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.